everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katarina. Today's video is going to be the second update for my pan palette in 2025. I am panning this year two of these Huda Beauty 9-pan palettes, so the Gold Obsessions and the Toffee Brown Obsessions. Actually, I do have some thoughts about how long I want to continue this project, but before that we are going to take a look into the progress of February. But before showing the progress, I just want to give credit to the creator of pan palette. So it was originally created by Ember F, so I will link her channel down below. Let's get now into the progress that I do have with these palettes in February. I'm really excited. I'm just moving a little bit aside here so that I can insert the pictures. So let me first show you what the Gold Obsessions palette looked like a month ago and what it looks like right now. It's really good progress actually. I didn't expect it to be this good. I had a goal of hitting one pan in February, but I actually finished one shade and I hit two pans. The peachy eyeshadow from this palette, so the second one in the top row, is the only shade that I have not yet used from this palette this year. I'm sure I will at least hit pan on it later. It just has not been a shade that I have been in a mood for wearing, but last spring I wore it a lot. But then the third shade that is gone right now, I was able to finish in February. So it was like a taupe shade, not super murky like taupes sometimes can be on me, but kind of like a little bit lighter, brighter, sort of golden taupe. I was really focusing on this eyeshadow actually in January, and then I thought that I want to take a little break from it in February, just because I thought that I want to go for a little bit more romantic vibe with my looks. Midway through the month I started feeling like my makeup looks are sort of all over the place, and I just felt like I want to focus on one look for a while. Then I had by then made some good progress with this eyeshadow, and I knew that if I focused on it, I could finish it still before this update. It is gone now. I'm really happy that the shade is gone, because I will say for me a taupe is really much kind of like a winter or maybe fall, a rainy day, like a gloomy weather sort of eyeshadow color, and we are getting closer to spring, and I already started noticing when there were some sunny and bright days when I was wearing this, and of course in the morning when I do my look, unless I have checked the weather in advance, I'm not going to know what kind of weather it is. But when I was wearing that taupe eyeshadow on a really bright and sunny day, it sort of felt heavy, and in spring a shade like this just isn't my first choice. Then let's talk about the pans hit. So I was able to hit pan on that dark matte brown, and that was actually my goal for February. I'm really happy about that. But I will say I have now hit my official goal with this eyeshadow. There is really nothing unique in a dark matte eyeshadow that make me want to go for finishing this shade. I think the side pan will probably happen naturally when I just focus on this palette and when I use the other eyeshadows, and then I use this one as my liner. But yeah, it's not a shade that I want to really have that much focus on anymore. But then the sixth shade, which is kind of like a pinky beige, is probably the best way to describe it. I was able to hit pan on this one, and that one I didn't expect at all. I actually didn't expect myself to even using it in February. However, after finishing the top, somewhere in the beginning of this week I think it was, I then decided to shift my focus on this eyeshadow, because I knew that it's not super far away from pan, so I thought that, you know what, let me just focus on this one, because if I focus on it a little bit I could still hit pan on it before filming this update. I don't track my eyeshadow uses anymore, but I think it only took like 3 uses to hit pan on it, and that was yesterday. And then today the pan still expanded a little bit, so I am wearing this today on the outer half of my lid, and on the inner half I'm wearing like a brighter kind of like off-white shade. I think it goes really well with the pink look that I have going on, like my pink sweater. But I will say there is something in these kind of eyeshadows that is slightly tricky with my undertone, which is, well, neutral, warm leaning. These kind of eyeshadows just can really easily clash with my skin tone, and this one is also not something that I want to finish necessarily. I could if I kept panning this palette for the entire year, but I don't think I would really enjoy it. I don't love it so much. I can see the possibility of myself getting bored. There would be those days when I wouldn't enjoy the look and it would feel like hate panning, so yeah, I can see myself still using it here and there, but I don't want to really focus on it anymore. Then there is still the 7th shade left, which is like a light pinky champagne, a really frosty shade. As you can see, the pan has expanded quite a bit. This is an eyeshadow that I used somewhat in the first half of the month, but as I said, my makeup style felt just a little bit not super cohesive, so I decided to just focus on the top first. My favorite way how I have been wearing this is to pair it with a liquid eyeshadow, and I did talk about this one in my Project Pan update, and in that video I was wearing that look. This is a rose gold liquid eyeshadow. It is the Jason Wu Celestial Last eyeshadow in the shade Jane Doe. On its own, it's just a little bit too rose gold for me, but the pinky shade from the Huda Beauty palette makes it brighter. But then this liquid eyeshadow helps with the staying power of the Huda Beauty eyeshadow, because this is like a cream to powder formula that just creases really badly even if I use eyeshadow primer, but when I pair it with a liquid eyeshadow, then it stays on and there's no creasing going on. So when I use these eyeshadows together, I first do with my finger a layer of the powder eyeshadow, then I tap on a little bit of this one. That is the progress that I have with the Gold Obsessions palette. Let's talk about the goals in the end of this video that I do have for March. And let's now talk about the progress that I do have with the Toffee Brown Obsessions. So again, I'm going to put here pictures of last month and this month. Well, there's one big change here, obviously, as you can see, but progress-wise, it's not that much. And as I said in my January's update, February is, from all of the months, the one that I'm into this kind of color story the least. Because this time of the year I typically go for those a little bit more romantic looks, or if I'm going for neutrals, something slightly cooler, and these are really warm tones. But yeah, let's just address the elephant in the room first. So there is one shade gone, and if you watched my January's update, you know that I decided to declutter that eyeshadow, and in my January's update I also showed you the swatch of it compared to the shade on the top row. So the shade that I decided to declutter is like a really intense copper, and I just don't really enjoy that kind of eyeshadow anymore. I don't like eyeshadows that are that dark. If I want to go for that kind of tone, I would way rather still wear something closer to my skin tone, like the shade on the top row that I actually really do enjoy. In February, I have used, I think once, the light gold from the middle row, and the pan has maybe expanded a little bit. But I noticed that this one is the same thing than the pinky champagne from the Gold Obsessions palette, that it just won't stay on with eyeshadow primer. So probably once I will start focusing on it, we'll need to pair it with a liquid eyeshadow to make it last. Well, maybe a glitter primer would do, but I don't have glitter primer right now, and I'm not going to buy glitter primer just for the sake of making my Pan That palette eyeshadows work better, because then I don't really feel that I need it with any of the other eyeshadows that I have in my collection. Then I have used also the mattes from the bottom row. So the brown, don't know if there's any visible progress, but when I have used this palette, which is only like a couple of times, I think, I have then used this one as a liner. And then I have used the matte cream maybe once or twice. Definitely in February there was more progress with the Gold Obsessions eyeshadow palette. Okay, but let's then talk a little bit about the future of this project and how long I can see myself panning this. In the intro, I actually think I thought that I would just pan this the entire year. Maybe I just didn't think about it too much. In January, I already started having some thoughts that maybe 12 months with these would be too long. And I think I said in January's update that I have some thoughts, but I want to see another month's worth of progress before I want to talk about it more in an update video. And now I'm actually really convinced that I don't want to pan these palettes for the entire year. There's just not enough for me to do without it getting really boring, and it would only be like a couple of impossible shades left, like the dark matte browns. So I have decided that I am going to only pan these palettes until midway through the year, because I do have another palette that I think would be amazing palette to pan for 18 months. Maybe I'm just going to show you what the palette is, and you know, if you have watched my makeup inventory, it's not like a huge secret that my makeup collection is quite small. There's not too many options. So I'm talking about my AB8 Soft Glam palette. This is a palette that is like warm neutrals with kind of like a romantic twist to it. So I actually think this would be a great palette to pan from July until December next year. So I would have 2 summer and fall and holiday seasons with it, but then only 1 winter and spring season. I can see that I could do a lot with it in a year and a half. In 1 year maybe I could hit pan on all of the shades, but could I, for example, finish some shades that I enjoy? Not necessarily. But then if I did it for like 2 years, it would get boring. I just decided that I'm going to pan these palettes until the end of June, and no matter how much eyeshadow there is left, how much progress I have been able to make, then it's time to say goodbye to these palettes, because honestly these are not my favorite palettes ever. Especially the Huda Beauty Shimmer formula, I have already in today's video said that a couple of the shimmers are kind of like not my favorite. Some of them are just really hard and uncomfortable on the lids, and then some are like cream to powder where they just won't stay and they will crease. But I am happy that I have been able to get so good use out of this, and these are fun palettes to pan, but are they like my favorite palettes formula wise and color story wise? Absolutely not. Let's move on and let's still talk about the goals and focus shades for March. So first, the gold obsession. My main goal for the month of March is to finish the Pinky Champagne. I know that there is quite a bit left on this pan, and it might at first glance look like it's going to be too challenging. However, this eyeshadow is extremely crumbly. Every time that I use it, there's just a lot of eyeshadow crumbling and coming off. So I actually think this one will be gone way before the end of the month. And I do think this is a great shade to focus on this time of the year, because it has that frostiness that reminds of winter, but then also because it's so light, it's kind of soft. It also has like that spring vibe, and I really want to focus on it, especially since the liquid eyeshadow that I have in my project pan, I'm going to keep that in as long as I do have this eyeshadow left, because as I said, they work better together. But I want to roll that liquid eyeshadow out from that project in the next update that I will film in the end of March, because I know that shade won't be my favorite anymore once we really get to spring and sunny and bright days. A rose gold just probably will be like a little bit wintry for me that time of the year. Other than that, I'm not going to set any goals for this palette, but I'm going to set a goal for the Toffee Brown Obsessions, and it will be no other than finish another eyeshadow. So I want to finish the matte cream. There's not much left. And once I have finished the Pinky Champagne, I want to start focusing on this one. Or another option would be to kind of like do the looks throughout the month when I feel like it. So maybe there will be a day that I just don't feel like wearing that kind of like frosty iridescent shade on my lid. So maybe I want to go for something more neutral and just plain and basic. So I could then do an all matte eyeshadow look using this one, and then I just need to well, maybe use my bronzer, for example, on the outer half of my lid. So do a similar look to what I'm wearing today, but with different tones, of course. But yeah, that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about my plan to end this project with these palettes midway through the year and then start another Pandat palette with the soft glam. I'm at least excited about that, but let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in my next one. Bye bye.